Hello and a very warm welcome to today's SOFiPLUS seminar. My name is Elaine Niebler and I'll be presenting this series of 6 English language seminars on the topic of SOFiPLUS 2010. So today in the 4th part I will take you through the basic processes for defining cross-sections in the cross-section editor in SOFiPLUS 2010. If you've missed any of the first 3 parts, you'll be able to download those for view from the Sophistic website info portal. I'll show you where you can find those later on. First, I'd like to give you a very short introduction to the GoToWebinar software, and then we'll move on to today's topic, which might take a little longer than usual, but hopefully we can keep it to 30 minutes. There'll be some time at the end if you'd like to ask any questions, and we'll try to answer those straight away. If we can't answer them straight away, then we'll reply to you by email. Okay, so the GoToWebinar software, you should be able to see this window on your screen. Here you have the option to view the webinar as a full screen. The option to raise your hand at the moment is deactivated. If you're having any problems with the audio over the internet, you can dial in using your telephone or using voice over IP. You will need a tone phone if you'd like to do this, and the number is available here. All participants in the SOFiPLUS will be able to hear me, but they themselves will be muted, so you won't be able to speak and be heard. At the end, we have some time for questions. If you have a question, you can type it into the question box at the bottom of the GoToWebinar window. Okay, so now I'm going to open up SOFiPLUS 2010, and here is a file that I've already set up. The first thing I'll show you is the system information that I've already entered. Here I've given my project its title, database and directory. Again, I've used a pure Eurocode here, and for the purposes of this SOFiPLUS I've used a 2D slab, and the rest of the settings I've left as the default. I've specified my drawing units as meters, which is standard for the Eurocode. So this SOFiPLUS is based on version 2010, which is the current version. However, in the summer there will be released a version 2012, which we'd like to tell you a little bit about. There will be some new functionality within that for creating your cross-sections, and we do believe that there is improved usability and workflow. So we'll give you another SOFiPLUS on that at some point in the future after that's been released. One point to note: in the cross-section editor in 2010, units are only available in meters, so you should bear that in mind when you're specifying your sections. So the first section I'm going to create now. Just a quick note on materials first of all. The materials that were created first of all when I selected my Eurocode were a concrete and a steel material. I've modified my concrete material by clicking on Properties and changing it to a C30 grade instead. And here I've created a new material by right-clicking on the materials, and here I've specified a steel. So the first cross-section that I'd like to go through, if I right-click on the cross-sections area, here I can define a new standard section. I'm going to select that. And in the box that appears, I'm going to select a T-beam section and click OK. I have the number 1 here for my cross-section number, and that's fine. Okay, so in the T-beam dialog box that pops up, here I have the opportunity to specify my material. If it's already set, I can select it from the drop-down box here. I also have the opportunity to modify my existing material properties or to create a new one within the box here. I'm just going to do some slight modifications to the dimensions of this T-beam. Here I'm going to change the width of the web to 0.3 meters, 300 millimeters, and as soon as I change to a different box, it's automatically reflected in the preview. I'm going to change the thickness of my flange to 0.25 meters and then the depth to 1.2 meters. Further on in the dialog box I have some other options. Here I can select if I'd like an inverted T-beam instead, and there are further options for where I'd like the origin within the section. I'm going to leave it at the centre of gravity here. Further on there's the opportunity to specify your reinforcement. Here it's selected the only reinforcement that I have specified. And here at the bottom I have the opportunity to specify a minimum reinforcement. So in here I'm just going to enter a value of 2.26 square centimeters. It's given itself a name according to the information that's been specified above. So now I'm just going to, before I click OK, I'll just show you in the bottom here. You'll be able to see the section properties for the section that you've just generated. I'm going to click OK. It gives me a short warning about the layout of reinforcement. It's going to fix that by itself, so I'll click OK. And here's my new cross-section. It appears in the cross-sections area of the sidebar. If you double-click on here, then the section will open and you can view exactly how it's been created. Here's the red line represents the boundary of the section and the green lines represent the reinforcement. In the auto calculation that the software has done, it has specified a centre of gravity point, and there's the S here, and a shear centre, which is the M symbol here. You will note if you click on it, you won't be able to modify this section. In order to be able to modify anything you've created in this way, what you need to do is use the explode command. But first, I'm going to copy the section so that I can have a fresh instance to work on. You will note in the right-click menu here, there is not a copy command. However, a very fast way to copy your section is to create a structural line. I'm here in the SE toolbar. I've already created a line here, so I'm going to modify my line. I'll just click and select, and right-click, and then here in the dialog box where I can choose my cross-sections, I have the opportunity to copy. So all I need to do is highlight my section I want to copy, click copy, assign it a section number. I'm going to give it number 2, and then click OK. So back in the Sys tab of the sidebar, you'll see here that my section has been copied. So now I'm going to right click and I'm going to select explode, and then I can double click and open my section. Whenever I'm in a cross-section, when I've opened one of my sections, in the sidebar a tab called CE, Cross-Section Editor, will become available, and in here you will find all of the necessary tools for working on cross-sections, be it thick-walled, thin-walled, or references for other sections that are available only with the CABD, Computer Aided Bridge Design module. The tools that are relevant for the kind of cross-section you're working on are also available on this small toolbar at the top of your window. Okay, so now that I've exploded my section, I can then select part of it. Using the AutoCAD blue grips, I can select those and just click and drag, and I can alter my section as I require. Then what I can do is to recalculate my section by clicking on the small cat symbol, and then as you'll see, my centre of gravity and my shear centre positions have changed. It's also given me a warning in the log tab where it has told me that there have been no defined shear cuts, and that it has automatically created a shear cut through the centre of gravity of the section. Okay, so I'll close my section by clicking on the red cross, and then I can save the changes. And I won't forget to rename my section because it's no longer the dimensions that are specified in the title. I'll just close that again. Okay, the next section I'd like to go over, if I right-click on the cross sections, here I have the opportunity to create a thick-walled section. What I've already done here is I've set up my thick-walled section with some basic geometry within. I'm just going to right-click and go into the properties to take me into the same dialog window. And here I have my section name and the number that's been assigned. Here I can assign the materials, so I'm specifying a concrete section here, so I want to use my concrete and my reinforcement. There are additional options for specification in here. I'm leaving those as the default. And in the layers dialog, I already have 2 minimum layers specified. I'm just going to enter one more, and then I'm going to click OK. Now here is my basic AutoCAD geometry that I've set out. Here I have a concrete box girder section. I have some lines here for the basic outline of my section. I have a hollow section within the center. I have some lines that have been offset in AutoCAD by 50 millimeters to represent my concrete cover. And here I have some further lines to help me specify my non-effective parts. The non-effective parts will not be taken into consideration for whichever stage of the design that you specify, and that might be primary bending, secondary bending, or shear. So the first thing I'm going to do is to draw the boundary, and I'm going to use the boundary tool at the top here. You can also select that from the CE tab of the sidebar. Here I have my concrete material, and I'm just going to click on the drawing and start to enter the points for the boundary of my section. And then once that last part is entered,